Hi, my name is Bailey and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be giving you my June and July wrap-up. I did not do a wrap-up for June. It just it wasn't a good month, honestly, and I just didn't feel like doing a wrap-up. Honestly, July wasn't a good month either, but now if you put two negatives together, you get a positive. That's what I've learned in math over the years, so we're putting them together. In June, I participated in the RWBY Games, which was hosted by Little Wolf Reads. And that's kind of all I've got to say before we get into this, so let's go. So I'm gonna actually talk about the two DNFs I have to talk about first, because just get them out of the way. So the first DNF I have for this month is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I got like 45 pages into this. I didn't try hard enough for this one. I feel like I'm going to try and read this again at some point, but it just wasn't the time for me. First off, it follows Laszlo Strange, and he's a dreamer. He's got dreams, and he really believes in this place called wayyyy. He's been researching it, but everybody else kind of doesn't believe it exists, some jazz like that. And then he goes to wayyyy. Shitty description, but whatever. This book, I know a lot of people praise the writing of this book because it's it's just so descriptive and flowery. And I get that, some people that might be what floats their boat. For me, it did not. It was just so frustrating to read this, at least the first 40-something pages of it, because everything was just so painfully described in so much detail. It was too flowery for me. I can deal with flowery and flourishy writing, but the writing was just too much for me to handle. It was just too flowery, if that makes sense. I don't have much to say on this book except for that. I'll probably pick this up at some point, but not right now. The next DNF I have to talk about is An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This book, so everyone's been talking about Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and I actually picked that one up. I haven't read it yet, but hopefully soon. But I've owned this for a while and I thought I'd try reading it. It's a short fantasy standalone, so I was sure, let's try. I got maybe 50 pages into this and I just was not having a good time. I just didn't think the writing was that good. I don't know. And it was really hard to follow, so I skim read the rest of it, and it was just the plot was a little bit insane from what I skim read. Again, I might try to read this again, but I didn't like the character. She was just as soon as she saw, so this is a romance, sort of. As soon as she saw her love interest, it was she had fallen in love with him, and it felt so insta-lovey, and it was just really annoying, and she kept going on about how she was so defenseless against the Fae, and it was just really annoying for me to read. A description of this book, it follows, what's her face? I think it's Isabel. She's she does portraits for the Fae, and then one day this guy named Rook shows up, and she paints a portrait for him, and it does something to him, and shebang shaboom, something goes wrong. There's a romance between the two. She paints mortal sorrow into his eyes, and it's bad. It could cost him his throne, his autumn throne. I don't know. It's a thing. There's fairies, there's magic, it's fantasy, there's a romance. I promise my descriptions will get better, but for the DNFs, I just I can't be bothered. So let's start getting into the books I actually finished. Let's go for June first. I'm gonna do these in chronological order. So the first book I read in June was Milk and Honey by RWBY Kaur, and I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. So a lot of people know it's her poetry collection, and it's a feminist sort of poetry collection. It's Instagram poetry. We all know what it is. It's talking a lot about sexual assaults and just relationships in general. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad to me. For me, poetry is it falls flat a lot of the time, so for it to get anything more than 3 stars or anything less than 3 stars, it has to be exceptionally good or exceptionally bad, you know what I mean? There's some poems I thought were really good, I thought really hit hard, but then a lot of them were just falling flat for me. So that's only got 3 stars. Pretty fine, pretty mediocre. So the next book I read was Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. If the ankle just changed a bit, I'm sorry because my phone fell. So I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but for the Biblio Games, I actually did complete 3 of the challenges, and I will go over which books fit the challenges while I talk about them. So Milk and Honey did fit the prompt or the challenge of Jim, which is read a book in a format you don't typically read. I read this book, well, one, it was poetry. I don't usually read poetry, and two, I read it on ebook, so it fit the challenge for that. I read this book for the challenge of world domination, which was a villain challenge, and it was to buddy read a book with a teammate. I read this with two teammates, actually, Adrienne and Michaela. I'll link their channels down below. So if you don't know what this book is about, it is the first book in the Grisha trilogy, and it follows Alina Starkov, and she has gone her whole life without knowing that she is a Grisha, but she's a special Grisha because she's a sun summoner, and there hasn't been one of those. I don't know if it's in forever or like if she's the first one. I don't know. But basically, in her country, it's called Ravka. There is a war going on, and there's a problem with Ravka because their country is split in two right now by this Shadowfold, which is just like a big dark area with like monsters in it, right? And so when they discover, oh, there's a sun summoner, she is taken in to basically train as a Grisha so that she can use her sun summoning ability, her light powers, to destroy the Shadowfold to help Ravka. And fun fantasy things ensue. I know a lot of people have read this or know about it, so I don't think that it's new to anyone. I've been trying to read Six of Crows for a very long time, but like the magic system just never stuck for me, and I've been DNFing it because it's just been hard for me to like catch on to the magic system. So I thought if I read this book first, it'll, you know, explain the magic system a bit more, and it really did. I actually do really like the magic system in this book. Yeah, I know the magic system really well now, so I feel like if I wanted to go and read Six of Crows now, it would be quite easy to catch on to the magic of the world because it's the same. So I gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, this is like a 2012 fantasy, I think, and it shows, like, the tropes. They're very clear, like, she's a chosen one, she doesn't know about her abilities until, what, like, she's 17 or 18, I don't know. It's just, like, it's very tropey, and it was very clear, like, not to say that was bad about it, I don't think that is that bad, because those tropes worked in that time, and they do still work, and I think that it is a solid fantasy novel. I do like the world, and I do like the magic. I do think it's quite entertaining. I would like to say, the beginning, like the first, I would say 100 pages, solid beginning. We go right into the action, it's very entertaining, it's very, like, action-packed and exciting, but then the middle kind of dragged for me, like, it was a little bit dull. The end, I thought, it really picked up as well. I thought there was a final battle scene, as you would assume, and I thought that Alina was able to really showcase her abilities in that scene, and I thought she was really badass at the end. I do not like Alina. She is, like, as dull as a piece of untoasted white bread. You know what I mean? She's just dull as fuck. But I thought she was so badass in that last scene, and I was like, oh, I was hooked, because I was like, it really went down for me in the middle, but that ending was just, that was a good ending. Love triangle. I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on this love triangle. I hate it. First off, in the most girl-loving way possible to say this, Alina is boring. She has two guys after at this point. Mal, her childhood pal, he was orphaned like her. They just connect, you know? And then the Darkling, who is this Grisha dude who kind of rules the Grisha in a way. And these two guys both like her. And she's so dull. It's like a little unrealistic to me that she would attract two of these people. Let's talk about Mal for a hot second, because there's clearly a lane of this love triangle. Like, you think the other person has a chance for a second, but they definitely don't, you know what I mean? Like, you know where this is going. Let's talk about Mal. He is the worst. I hate him so much. Like, I hate Alina. I hate Mal so much worse. He is the worst person ever. I've also read, like, the first 100 pages of Siege and Storm, which is the sequel to Shadow and Bone. He gets worse, by the way. Lee Bardugo is trying to shove down our throats that this man is the most handsome man you've ever seen. Every time Alina's around Mal and there's, like, females around, she's like, oh, all the girls are looking at him, oh, because he's so dang attractive. He's the hottest mofo ever. And I'm like, you know, the more you tell me I'm supposed to swoon over this guy, the less I like him. But Alina's had a crush on him for like ever, and he doesn't care about her at all until she has another love interest prospect, and then he's like,
but I loved you all along, Alina. Like, stay with me. Why would you ever go with somebody else?
And I'm like, you only liked her when it was convenient to you? And that's gross to me. I hate that. I hate that with a burning passion. This is getting kind of spoilery. I'm sorry. I just have a lot of thoughts. He's also, so Alina's a Grisha and she's trying to use her powers and get stronger. But it just feels like he's holding her back because every time they have a discussion about her powers, he is shaming her for it. Or he's like, you're different now. I don't know this new you. I'm like, no. Like, just because she has a power, it's like he's trying to downplay her abilities and make her feel bad for being different than him. And I'm like, that's gross. Again, I would never, if I was her, I would never want to be with someone who's trying to put me down for no reason. Back to Alina. Ooh, she is determined to make us, so she's like blonde hair, blue eyes, white chick, classic. She's like, it's like standardly like, if you were to describe a traditionally pretty person, blonde hair, blue eye, white person, yeah, traditionally a pretty person, but she's determined to make us think that she is not attractive. She's like, I'm just so dull. I'm just not attractive. I'm just like this, that, the other thing. I'm just so skinny. I'm just too skinny. I just got too much, like, my features are just too defined. I'm like, you can't try and convince me that you are not attractive. You know what I mean? I hate when there's a character. This mostly happens with like main characters, main female characters. They try to convince you that they are not attractive. And I do get at some levels insecurities, but like, this isn't, because you can't look in the mirror and like from all she's described as being pretty. You know what I mean? You look at the fan art, the way she's described, the way people are interpreting it, she's a pretty person. You can't try and pull a fast one on me and tell me she's not traditionally attractive. Like, she is. Don't try and lie to me, because it's annoying for a reader if you're trying to tell me every 2 seconds,
oh, I'm ugly. Mal, he's beautiful. I'm ugly though.
I hate it because it pisses me off. Like when she does have moments where she feels confident in herself and she's like, no, I am pretty. No, I am strong. I liked her then because she was, you know, becoming self-confident and being self-confident in the fact that she is special. She is powerful. She is pretty. I liked her when she was doing stuff where she was like standing up for herself, but like the rest of the book and a lot of the book she was just like, I'm just so plain Jane, dull and hideous, and I'm like, I don't believe you. Oh, the Darkling. I know this is gonna be such a long segment of me talking about Shadow and Bone. I'm so sorry, but I have a lot of thoughts in it. So the Darkling, for the love triangle, I say I'm on the Darkling lane, but I'm kind of on neither lane, you know what I mean? But the reason I like the Darkling with Elena is just I'm a sucker for a nice yin-yang, opposites attract sort of a romance. The Darkling, he has shadowy powers, and the Alina's got light powers. I just love a yin-yang sort of a moment, like an opposites attract sort of a thing. But I do think that both sides are kind of toxic. But the Darkling was the most interesting character in this book. Alina's not interesting. Mal, trash. One thing I really liked about this book though was Alina and a character named Genya. They had a friendship in this book, and I thought it was a very nice friendship. It was really nice to see their interactions, and I really liked that. 2.5 stars. I liked some things, I didn't like some things. I will be continuing with the series because I do think it's quite interesting. But yeah, in general, I thought this was pretty mediocre, but like I would read it. Like I would recommend reading it because it's just like such a staple in YA fantasy that I would just like suggest you read it. Also, if you're gonna read Six of Crows, I do think it would probably be easier to read at least the first book, at least just this book in the Grisha trilogy before you do, because it just really does explain the magic system immediately. So it's really nice. Sorry, that was so long, but I just have a lot of thoughts on that book, so. Again, if the angle changed, my phone fell again, so sorry. But the next book I have to talk about is Sunstone Volume 2. I'm not gonna say the author's name because I have no idea how to pronounce it. This is the second volume in Sunstone. The first volume I rated, I think, like 4 out of 5 stars. I actually really liked it. This one I rated 3 out of 5 stars. I did not like it as much as the first one, but basically these books follow, what's her face? Ali and Lisa, and they are 2 women who enter into a BDSM relationship, and start catching feels, sort of. It's kind of about like BDSM life and like romantic life along with that. There's LGBTQ rep, obviously, because they are both women, and yeah, I really like the concept. I really like the first one. I do like where the series is going. I just wish this book focused less on like the past and more on the current relationship between Allie and Lisa, because at the end of the first book, Lisa is sort of like developing feelings for Allie. And the way this book is told, we already know that they are together as a couple in the end. Is like she's talking back. I think it's Lisa is talking about their relationship previously, like she's telling us about it while she's already with Allie. But I would have liked to see more of them developing more of a romantic relationship than going more into the past, which was what this book did. So that's kind of my only critique. Other than that, I really did like this still, but yeah. I'll try and only talk a lot about books that I have like a lot of feelings about, because like Shadow and Bone, I just had a lot. Oh, I actually rated Sunstone 3.5 stars. I'm checking my notes and oops. The next book I read in June was Her Royal Highness by Rachel Hawkins. I think I counted it for the challenge of lunch, which was a book with a satisfying ending. And this will be the end of all the challenges that I completed, because I didn't complete any other ones, so go me. This book follows, what's her face? Millie Quint, and basically her best friend slash girlfriend sort of cheats on her, and then she's like, I'm gonna move. And she's going into her senior year, and she ends up applying to this boarding school in Scotland, and she gets in on a full scholarship. And this boarding school is known for teaching royals of Europe, or like important European people, children. So she gets into this school, and her roommate actually ends up being the Princess of Scotland, I think. So Millie, I don't know if I mentioned this, but she's from Texas, I do believe. I think she's from Texas. She's American. And then obviously everyone else there is basically just all European, but basically this book follows Millie and Flora, kind of, not from enemies, kind of enemies to friends to lovers. It's a romance, if you didn't know. I really like the LGBTQ rep in this. Obviously there's a female-female relationship. I gave this 4 to 5 stars. I actually really like the relationship. I really like the writing. I had a pet peeve with this, and it's not just this book, but basically Millie in the beginning is dating a girl, so we obviously know she is somewhere in the LGBTQ community. The beginning makes it sound like she is a lesbian, but then about 100 pages into the book, she's talking about crushing on a guy, and I'm like, wait, are you bi? Because she never like says it. And then like about 50 pages later, then they explicitly say she's bi. I don't know why this bothers me, but I hate when I'm reading a book looking for LGBTQ rep and it doesn't specify what that rep is until like far in. It's a pet peeve of mine, because I'm like, are you talking about how attractive this guy is objectively, or are you talking about it in a way like, oh, I would date him? Like, are you bi or a lesbian? Could you tell me that? Like, it's just a pet peeve of mine. I want to know the character sexualities, because I feel like also if you're reading a book to kind of see yourself in a book, if that makes sense, you kind of want to know what the rep is so you can really identify with the character. So that was a little bit annoying to me. I also thought that there wasn't a lot of focus on the romance. Like, the romance kind of comes in really late in the end. So that was a little bit, not annoying, but it was kind of disappointing, because I really did like their relationship once they were in a relationship. But I did like the development from enemies to friends to lovers. It was good. I liked it. Solid read. It was very cute. You know what I mean? I liked it. The next and final book I have to talk about for June is Unfollowing You by Kamal Kapoor. This is a poetry collection that I just picked up on a whim one day. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, like I said earlier, with poetry, it's usually just 3 stars for me. It's very hard to get more or less because it just falls flat a lot of the time. I have the same comments as I did for Milk and Honey. Like, some poems I did, they hit me, and then some of them were just really fell flat for me. It's all I really have to say. This is, again, like, feminist. It's kind of going through a relationship, so like talking about a toxic relationship and getting over it. You know the drill. It was a decent read, but again, not extraordinary. So now we're going to be moving on to my July reads. So the first book I read in July was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna Maguire. This is technically the second book in the Wayward Children series. but it's like a prequel technically. So I haven't actually read any of the books in the Wayward Children series other than Down Among the Sticks and Bones. So I actually tweeted about this to ask if this was okay, but I know that Down Among the Sticks and Bones is actually a prequel, so technically you don't have to read the first book to read it. So a lot of people talk about this book being their favorite book in the Wayward Children series, or like a really good book. I see so many 5-star reviews. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. It has LGBTQ rep apparently. It's gonna be a fantastic read, and I actually gave it 3 out of 5 stars. I'll give you a description before I go into my thoughts about it, but this book follows Jack and Jill, and they are 2 girls, they're twins, and they were born into a family that I wouldn't say, they were not ready for kids. Like, they didn't have kids for the right reason. And so basically in the Wayward Children series, it's like, so these like magical doors to other worlds open up at times where for children to see, and they walk through and go into magical worlds. It's kind of like when they have like kind of an unfortunate family life, I think. I think it's something where like their family life isn't good. I don't know exactly why they open up. I think it's something about family lives and being bad and something being wrong with where they are at the time. So Jack and Jill, which is what this book is about, their parents are basically really imposing a stereotype for each girl to fit into, and it's not really how they are. And so when the door opens up, they go down into, I think it's called the moors, so that's the world that they end up in, and fun stuff occurs from there. They find their place in this world before eventually going back into the real world and ending up at what's-her-face's home for wayward children. Not a good description, but like, sorry. Basically in this book, I have notes on this. In July I started keeping a reading journal where I could keep my thoughts. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at. So things I did like. I did like the discussion of gender stereotypes and kind of like gender roles, sort of. Being like, so one of the girls, I think it was Jack. Her name is actually Jacqueline, but she goes by Jack for most of the book. Or like when she gets to be herself, she goes by Jack. Basically, her mom has made her be super, super feminine. Like, she's her little girl, her little feminine daughter. And the father wanted a son, but they did not have a son. They had 2 girls. And so Jill ends up having to, I wouldn't say act like a boy, but be very tomboyish and be very like, oh, maybe masculine-ish, and like run around in the mud, play with the boys, like that sort of a thing. She's not allowed to be feminine. So I did like the discussion of gender stereotypes and how, you know, you shouldn't do that, and you should let your kids, or at least let people be who they want to be and let them do what they want to do. So when they do finally get to the moors, they get to kind of express themselves and be themselves more. The writing style I really did like. It was very nice to read, and it was enchanting, you know what I mean? Like, you want to keep reading. The writing style was 10 out of 10. I am excited to read the rest of the series, if not for the concept, for the writing style, because it's good. I'm gonna get into some spoilery sort of things here, so if you don't want any spoilers, I'll put a timestamp up for when I stop talking about Down Among the Sticks and Bones. But before that, I will tell you that I hated the ending. But if you don't want spoilers, skip now. Now to things I do not like. So after I read this book, I read a few of the negative reviews just to see what people thought of the book. I saw a lot of people talking about bury your gays, which is, you know, the concept of having gay characters and killing them off. You know, I don't know exactly if I would call this exactly that sort of route, but I would say that it has a hint of that in my opinion, because so Jack is dating a woman in the moors. Her name's Alexis, I think, and she gets killed by Jill, who is Jack's sister. There was no retribution or justice for her death, and it was so annoying to me, especially I hated the ending because of this, because so Jack's girlfriend Alexis is killed by Jill. Jill's been a bitch this whole time, by the way. Hate Jill. But then Jack saves Jill and doesn't let the townspeople kill her and get justice in that way, and she takes Jill and saves her and leaves the moors, even though Jack wants to stay in the moors. And I'm just like, I don't understand where the logic was, because Jack's girlfriend just got killed by her bitch of a sister who never ever cared. Like, once she got to the moor, she stopped caring about Jack completely and was being a bitch to her. Jack basically says that Alexis taught her what love was and taught her how to love. Mind you, her sister, who she loves because she's her sister, kills the woman that she loved, but she's like, no, I'm gonna save Jill. It's cool that you just murdered my girlfriend. Like, that pissed me off, because I'm like, where's the justice? Where is the justice there? It pissed me off. So I don't know if it's exactly bury your gays. It didn't feel completely like that to me, but maybe a tad. It just frustrated me. Like, that's what kind of brought down my rating that much, was just that I was like, why? Like, that ending was the worst. Like, I liked the relationship. She taught her how to love, and then she gets killed and there's no justice. That's kind of all my thoughts on this book. I thought it was decent, but the ending was just terrible to me. I hated it so much. I do know that they're in these two characters are actually in the rest of the series, obviously, because they are at the home for wayward children. So I'm excited to read the first book and kind of see their cameos, but I hope there's a little bit of justice somewhere in there. Somewhere, because I like justice, and this didn't have that. The next book I have to talk about is Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan. So, I gave this book 4 to 5 stars. If you don't know what Saga is, it's a graphic novel series that is everybody loves it. I thought the first book was pretty good. What is the description of it? There's these two, I don't remember their names, but there's two, like, people who are from different planets that aren't supposed to like each other because the planets are at war, or like the people are at war and they fall in love, they have a baby, and they're on the run. Basically, I liked this book. I thought it was good. It just wasn't 5-star material for me. Like, it was good, but it didn't hit me like a 5-star would. You know what I mean? I don't have many thoughts on it. So there's a character named Isabel. I liked her. Loved Isabel. Great character. And I just thought the book in general was action-packed and exciting. I thought it was cool. It was fun to read. I do want to read the rest of the series. It was good. So the next book I read in July was Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia. So I say read, I did not read this in July. I started this at the end of May, and then I got to the point where I think I had like 20 or like 40 pages left of this book, and I didn't read it in June. And then I finished it in July. I gave this book, how many stars? I gave this book 3 to 5 stars. I know a lot of people love this book, and I expected to love it as well. And like in general, this book was just a disappointment to me. I just didn't like it. So basically, this book follows Eliza, and she is the creator of a popular webcomic series called Monsters C, but she is an anonymous creator. Like, her alias online is Lady Constellation. Nobody knows her actual name or where she is or how old she is. And then she meets Wallace, who has just transferred to her high school. He's like a fan fiction writer for Monsters C, and he's a really big fan of the comics. Him and her kind of develop a relationship, a friendship and a relationship, all without her telling him that she is the creator of the comic series. This book deals a lot with, obviously, Eliza and Her Monsters. That's like alluding to her mental health. She has a lot of, I think, anxiety. I can't remember completely, but I think it is a lot of anxiety and stuff. And I get why people would really like that portion of the book where it's talking about mental health, which I did appreciate the mental health representation. Like, I did not like Eliza as a character. She really annoyed me, and she really just grinded my gears every time she did stuff. Like, she really pissed me off as a character. I don't even remember exactly why. I just wrote in my journal that I disliked the characters. So yeah, I think I said characters, but I only disliked really Wallace and Eliza. Wallace pissed me off toward the end, and Eliza was just kind of annoying to me throughout the whole book. I don't have a good reason why to tell you, because I don't remember why exactly I didn't like her. I know why I didn't like Wallace, but that's kind of spoilery. But the reason I don't really like Eliza, I can't really give like a good examples because I don't really remember exactly what my point was. I didn't write down very detailed notes for this book. I get the comparison to Radio Silence. I really do. Like, I really love Radio Silence, and I do not love this book, but I do understand the comparison to Radio Silence. There are some major plot points that are quite similar to this book. I just don't know. It didn't hit the same way as Radio Silence for me. I forgot to mention this, but something I really did like was the actual addition of the illustrations. Yeah, no, there's not like comic panels, but like, I just like the addition of the illustrations and stuff. I thought that was kind of fun. That also kind of reminded me of Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, where they had like the little excerpts from Carry On the fanfiction that the main character, Kath, is writing. So I just thought that that was kind of fun to read, but in general, I didn't really love this book. The next book I read in July was My Favorite Half Night Stand by Christina Lauren. I actually started this book at the end of June and finished it in July. I gave this book 2.5 out of 5 stars. I didn't like this book very much. I really love autobiography by Christina Lauren. I think that book is just so good. I love it so much. It has a special place in my heart. So I was like, you know, I'll pick up another Christina Lauren book and see how I like it. I did not like this book. Basically, this book follows, her name's Millie, and she is in a group, her friend group is made up of dudes, they're all strictly platonic. They all work at this university, and there's this university function coming up, and they all need a date for it, and so they go on a dating site. But before all this occurs, her and her friend, one of the guys in the friend group, Reed, have a steamy night together, and they hook up. And then they've decided to just be friends after this. But then on the dating app, so Millie makes her first account under her name Millie, and then she just like isn't feeling it. So she starts up another account under her middle name Catherine, and she matches with Reed, and then she proceeds to catfish him and fall in love. That's this story. I did not like this book. I don't like catfishing in general. It's kind of gross to me, but especially the concept of catfishing a friend that you've already hooked up with, which you clearly like, who at least likes you a bit, so I feel like you don't have, there's no need to catfish, you know what I mean? Like, you're already close to this person, you should be able to tell them about your feelings, you should be able to talk to them. I thought it was gross to catfish your friend, such a close friend as well as she, throughout this book, is still hooking up with him. And I'm like, why are you still catfishing him? Just tell him you like him. I thought that Millie was a very weird character for me. It was like the authors were really trying to tell me that she was very quirky and, funny, and she was just like this all-out great girl. She's just so quirky. She's like weird, but she's great still. And I'm like, I don't know, it pissed me off because I'm like, you give her all the interests that are supposed to make her quirky, but it just made it feel like she was a character who wanted to be quirky, who needed to be quirky, instead of someone who's a well-rounded person who has these interests. You know what I mean? But also, a part of Millie's character is that she's very emotionally closed off and she's not very good at opening up to people. I did kind of appreciate that at times, but in general I thought it was really annoying because that was how she was playing off catfishing her friend. Like, at the end of the book, her reasoning for catfishing him and her justification is that she couldn't open up to him in person, and so she was using her Elias to sort of open up to him emotionally. I thought that her being emotionally kind of stunted was an interesting character trait, and that was justified by her backstory, but I thought that her justifying catfishing and stringing along Reed, using that to justify it, I thought that was shitty. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't get behind that. Also, this is a spoiler, but this is a romance book, so you can assume they get together at the end, and Reed forgives her for the catfishing thing, and I was just like, no, like, if at the end, Reed had been like, no, I can't forgive you for this, we can't be together, sort of a thing, I would have respected that. But, like, he didn't do that, clearly. Like, he was mad at her for a bit, but then he was like, eh, whatever. Let's date. I wouldn't recommend actually reading this. If you're gonna read Christina Lauren, just read autobiography. I think it's better. Remy's here right now. I don't know if you can see her because I'm, like, sitting in front of her. Remy! Remy! The next two books I have to talk about are both manga, and so the first one is RWBY, the official manga anthology, volume 3 from Shadows. So RWBY the show, I like, but I don't like at the same time. Like, it's very weird. So I've been reading the manga anthologies or whatever, and this one follows Blake Belladonna, which is one of the characters in the main team of the show. She's my favorite character in the show, and I did not like this anthology. I think the purpose of these anthologies are basically to queerbait the relationships that fans like on the show. So, for example, this character's name is Blake, and there's another character named Yang, and a lot of the fans ship Yang and Blake together. They're both girls. And for the first, like, 5 seasons, no romantic tension at all, until now season 6 comes out, and now they have sexual tension or romantic tension. And I'm like, I feel like that's the show creators seeing people shipping these two characters together, like, shoehorning that in, even though this character has had male love interests and shown interest in them the rest of the show, but now she's into Yang. Like, it pisses me off as a person who actually doesn't ship them together because they do not have romantic tension. or chemistry at all. I also find in general the stories in these anthologies are very hard to follow. They're very, like, some of them are very cohesive, but then some are like, I have no idea what's going on. So the final book I have to talk about is My Hero Academia Volume 1. So my friend Ava, she's been in a few videos, she showed me My Hero Academia movie or something like that, and I actually really enjoyed it, so I wanted to read the manga before I watched the show. You know, be that person who reads it before I watch it, you know what I mean? And this book follows Deku, and he lives in this world. So basically it's like our world, but I think in the future, where I think, what is it, 80% of the population? I think it's 80% of the population has a quirk, which is basically a superpower, like a magical ability. And then 20% of the population honestly does not, and they're quirkless, and they are normies. So Deku has a dream of becoming a superhero, which is what most, well, not most, but some people with quirks do. And he's quirkless, so his dream is kind of made difficult because there's no real superheroes who do not have a quirk, and he's still determined, but in general everyone around him's like, yeah, no, you're not gonna be a superhero. Until All Might, who is the kind of like the best superhero, I guess, kind of they run into each other, and he ends up giving Deku his power because that's the nature of his ability, is to pass it down to somebody at some point. So now Deku has a quirk, and he gets into UA, which is a superhero academy, and it's following him and his new crew of superhero teens, and they're doing stuff. I gave this book 4 to 5 stars. I thought it was good. Again, it just didn't give me that 5 out of 5 star feel. I did really like the art. I really liked in general, the story. Like, it's very entertaining. It's action-packed. I love the characters. They're just like, they're fun. It's fun to read, you know what I mean? Like, it's action-packed, it's fun, and it's exciting, and it makes you, like, it makes you feel, it's a feel-good story, you know, if you feel good reading it. I enjoyed this. I plan to continue with the series. Yeah, it was exciting, it was fun to read, and I can't wait to watch the show at some point. This is literally like an hour of raw footage for this wrap-up. I need to edit that down. So here's the stack of books I read, minus a few that I didn't actually own or purchase. I hope you enjoyed this video. My social media links are down below. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Bailey. Bye-bye.